My mom asked me to donate my kidneys to my addict brother, and when I refused because of the risks of the surgery, she called me just a selfish nobody who didn't deserve to be her son. I won't lie to you. That sentence carved itself into my heart, and it still echoes in my ears to this day. I'm a 25-year-old guy, a university student who works part-time to cover my expenses and help my parents a little, especially after my older brother's problems got worse. Unfortunately, he's been an addict for a long time. My brother was the spoiled golden child of the family. Since school days, I'd see him skip class, pick fights, annoy our dad, and talk back to our mom. Yet she'd always make excuses for him. He's a teenager. He's upset. He's sensitive. You don't understand him. He's kind-hearted. And so on. While he was throwing his life away, I pushed myself to stay on the right path. I wasn't perfect, but I worked hard. Yet none of it mattered. All the love, attention, and appreciation went to him. The first time we found out he was an addict was when he was rushed to the hospital after passing out in the street. That's when they found everything. Pills, powder, even needles. Mom broke down, but not at him. No, she kept saying, someone must have given him the wrong thing, or maybe someone hurt him. She refused to believe her precious son could be the cause of his own destruction. He came back from the hospital, went to rehab, and got out after 2 months. He promised he'd changed, but within 2 weeks, he was worse than before. This cycle, repeated more than 3 times. By then, I was exhausted from all the failed attempts. I tried talking to Mom about the futility of treatment, about him taking responsibility, about how the house had become a prison because of him. But she'd always shut me down, accusing me of being jealous of him or even wanting to get rid of him. Months passed, and I kept going, working, studying, buying groceries, enduring his never-ending antics. I tried to be the silent, sensible one in the middle of endless chaos. Until that night came. It was past midnight when Mom burst into my room, crying and screaming, saying my brother was in the hospital in critical condition. His kidneys had failed, and his life was in danger. I went with her immediately, my heart pounding. No matter what, he was still my brother. At the hospital, the doctor sat us down and explained the situation. He said my brother needed a kidney transplant as soon as possible, or he'd face serious complications. Before I could even process it, Mom turned to me and said coldly, "You have to donate to him. There's no time. It has to be a family member." I felt like the world froze for a second. I told her, "Mom, the surgery is risky. This isn't something small. I'm still young. At the start of my life, what if something happens to me? And besides, he hasn't even quit drugs. How can I be sure he'll take care of his health?" "Of my kidney?" Before I could finish, she cut me off, her voice full of rage. "You're a nobody. Selfish. You don't deserve to be my son." She said it like she was stabbing me in the back, coldly, like I was a stranger to her, not the son, who spent his life trying to please her. I just stared at her, unable to believe it. Me? Selfish? Because I was scared for myself? Because I refused to sacrifice a part of my body for someone who could lose it at any moment? Someone who never respected my efforts, whose mother never valued my patience with him? At that moment, I felt like everything had been a lie. The love, the appreciation, even the idea of family. It was all an act, and the spotlight was always on him, even if it destroyed the rest of us along the way. I went home that day shattered. No one spoke to me. Mom wouldn't even look at me. And Dad, as usual, silent, like nothing had happened. And since then, everything changed. The house became colder than ice. No one talks to me, not even to answer a question. Mom treats me like I don't exist. She walks past me like I'm air. And Dad, I swear, he hasn't even looked me in the eye since that day. I'd come back from university to find dinner ready, but not for me. Everything was set for Mom, Dad, and my brother. Even though he was in the hospital, she still saved his spot. And me? If I was hungry, I cooked for myself. If I got sick, no one even asked what was wrong. The strange part? I wasn't even angry, at least not at first. I was just in shock. Night after night, I kept thinking, am I really a nobody? Was I selfish for thinking of myself? Was I supposed to be a living sacrifice just to earn their approval? I replayed the hospital argument 100 times in my head. I imagined if I'd just said, yes, Mom, and signed the donor papers. Would she have loved me then? Would she have said, I'm proud of you, son? Or would she have just used me and forgotten me, like always? And every time I imagined the answer, I'd tell myself no, because her love was conditional, because to her, I was always the backup, the plan B, the son who achieves when the other one fails. Days passed, and Mom still visited my brother at the hospital every day. She'd bring him food, sit with him, post stories of him smiling like some hero, even though he was the one who destroyed our entire family. And me? She didn't even ask about me. Then one day, I was in my room when a relative messaged me privately. He said, I don't know the details, but your mom's telling people you refused to save your brother's life, that you're a coward, and that you turned out worse than she expected. I couldn't process it. I wasn't just hurt. No, I felt exposed. I'd become the family's gossip topic, discussed in gatherings like I'd betrayed them all. And why? Because I said no. The worst part? Most people didn't even know the full story. No one knew my brother had been an addict for years. No one knew how many scandals he'd caused, how many times we'd ended up at police stations because of him, how many of my things I'd sold to help Mom pay for his rehab. All they knew was this one line. His mom asked him to donate a kidney, and he refused. Can you imagine? Everything I'd ever done was erased in an instant. And all that remained was me being the ungrateful son. I reached a point where I stopped eating, stopped studying, even stopped going to work. I'd lie in my room for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering, if I died, would they miss me? Or would they say, good, one less burden? Then one day, I went out to clear my head, feeling suffocated, when I saw him, my brother, standing outside the hospital, smoking. I couldn't believe my eyes. I walked up to him and said, aren't you in critical condition? What are you doing here? He replied, coldly, I stepped out for some air. You can leave. No one asked for you. I said, do you even know Mom cut me off because of you? That people talk about me like I'm a monster? He laughed. I swear, he laughed and said, your problem is you. Keep trying to please her. But you never will. She wants someone like me, just successful. And me? I'm not changing. Those words hit me like ice. I went home, shaking. Not from cold or fear, but from the truth. For the first time in my life, I realized I'd been a fool. I thought sacrifice would be valued, that silence would be respected, that loyalty to family was sacred. But the reality? Sometimes family can be your biggest prison. A few days later, Mom brought up the kidney again. She said, time's running out. Your brother needs you. And if you don't donate, his death will be on your hands. I looked at her and said calmly, and if I donate and die, would you say the same thing to him? Or would you just say, he was a good boy, he sacrificed, may God rest his soul? She stayed silent, but her look said it all. It doesn't matter. After I asked Mom if she'd say the same thing to my brother if I died, and she stayed silent, something inside me shattered for good. No more doubt. No more delusions. I wasn't her son. I was just a tool to save her favorite child, even if it cost me my life. After that conversation, everything started falling apart, even faster. There was no more peace, not even on the surface, no more politeness, no more pretending to love. The house became thick with tension, and everything was thrown at me as if I were the reason our family was crumbling. My father didn't intervene, as usual. But this time, it was worse. He started ignoring me openly. No more, "Good morning," as if I were some stranger living with them. Sometimes I'd overhear him whispering to my mom, "What do we do with him? Why is he like this?" And me, sitting in the next room, hearing every word. The neglect turned into something darker. Isolation. They'd leave the house without telling me. Meals no longer made it to my side of the table. Even when relatives visited, my mom would exaggerate, talking about her disappointment in her second son, dropping hints in front of everyone, while I stood there. But the deepest cut? The day I walked into the kitchen and heard my mom on the phone with my aunt. "You think your son doesn't listen? Mine refused to save his brother's life. That's not a son, that's a disgrace." That last word, disgrace, it lodged itself inside me. Something in me broke, things I'd been holding on to for years. I'm the disgrace? Me, the one who worked, studied, helped, swallowed every injustice? Me, the one who cleaned up her son's disasters? Me, who sacrificed years just to survive without causing trouble? I'm the disgrace? That night I cried. Not from weakness, but from suffocation. I felt like I was screaming silently, and no one heard me. Everyone around me saw me as the guilty one, and the only one who saw the truth was me. I started looking for my own place. Told myself, I can't keep going like this. I'll explode, I'll hate them, and hate myself with them. I found a tiny rented room, just a bed and a desk, but it felt like freedom. I called the landlord and sealed the deal. When I got home and told my family I was moving out, my mom, sitting on the couch, didn't even look up. She just said coldly, "Do what you want. You should have done it long ago. This house can't handle you anymore." And my dad, he just scoffed. "We didn't kick you out. Don't make it sound like we did." The day I left, no one said goodbye. No one asked if I needed help. I walked out with one bag, my books, and a lifetime of wounds, but for the first time in years, I felt something unexpected. Lightness. Lightness from the burden. Lightness from the pain. Lightness from feeling like a nuisance. The room was cold, silent, empty of any life. But the moment I closed the door behind me, I felt relief. I sat on the bed, not sleeping, just thinking. Why all this? What did I ever do to deserve this weight? Is family really sacred if it destroys you? Does blood mean loyalty? When the other side gives nothing back? These questions became my daily routine. I'd go to university, come back, cook, work a few hours, then sit alone in my room. No more talking. No more trust. Then one day, my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered. It was my mom's voice. For the first time in months, I heard her speak to me directly. She said, "Your brother got worse. Complications. The doctor says he might need permanent dialysis now." A pause. Then, "Even if he found a donor, his body can't take it anymore. And the problem, he's giving up." I stayed silent, listening. Not out of spite, just shock. Then she said, "Anyway, I called just so you know. You missed your chance. If you'd donated, maybe he wouldn't have gotten this bad." I clenched my fists and replied, "And if I had donated, maybe I'd be the one in the ICU today. Would you have regretted it then? Or just blamed me for that too?" She went quiet. But this silence was different. There was something strange in it. Like, for the first time, she was actually hearing me. Or maybe for the first time, she was thinking about what really happened. not just the story she'd built in her head. She didn't wait long before muttering, "Whatever." I said what I needed to say, and she hung up. I stared at the wall for a long time after that. I didn't cry. I didn't grieve. I didn't feel joy. Just one thing settled in me. I was right. I was right to say no, right to choose myself. Even if they saw me as a nobody, even if I wasn't their golden child, I was at least my own person. Now, living away from them in my small room, I see things clearly. I've learned I don't need to be anyone's perfect son. I don't need to bleed myself dry for conditional love. I've learned real sacrifice starts with protecting yourself from people who consume you without ever really seeing you, even if they're the closest to you. My brother's still in the hospital, deteriorating every day, and my mom. Maybe she still hasn't forgiven me. Maybe she never will. But the strange part? I've forgiven her. Not because I forgot. Not because I'm weak, but because I want to start over. Without rage, without bitterness, without begging for scraps of approval. I'm working on myself now. On my future. Writing, reading, building a better version of me. For me, not for them. And the biggest lesson? Blood doesn't justify exploitation. You can love your family, but you draw lines. To guard your heart, your mind, your body. I was never a nobody. I was just the son who forgot himself, trying to please people who'd only love him broken. But not anymore. Today, I'm not broken. I'm a man, standing on my own feet with no regrets. If this touched you or reminded you of someone, you're not alone. Drop a comment below. Let's talk honestly about these wounds, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, because the next story, it might hit closer to home than you think. This was Max Fables.